welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going over an email from Kimberly Olson. She sent me an email a while ago. Again, I'm still going through all my emails. I have 185 of them. So if I haven't responded to your email, I'm getting to it. But she sent me an email talking about the number 17. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, this comes up somewhat frequently, the number 17, because of President Nelson and other things that we've noticed that seem quite coincidental, which I wouldn't say that it's coincidence. But we're going to go into this a little bit deeper in this video. So before I do, I want to highlight somebody. JJ Johnson sent me an email with a picture, and I would like to feature her. If anybody would like to send me photos, it doesn't even matter at this point. If it before I was doing mission photos, I'm also doing a call out for any veteran or service member photos. I just like to highlight people. I think it's fun to do. Or even like maybe like where you got married at, like temple wedding photos or something like that. Anyway, she says, I think your daughters will enjoy LDS youth music on YouTube. And she has like a link here, Trust in the Lord 2022 youth theme official music video on YouTube. Thank you, JJ Johnson. I'll make sure to pass that on. And then she says, also a picture of me. So you will recognize me when I come looking to thank you and Jenica personally for changing my world for the better when we meet in this life or the next. Well, that's really sweet. I appreciate that. I'll look forward to meeting you, JJ Johnson. I'm in the white dress with white hair, and my niece Angie is the redhead. All right. It's so good to connect with you guys and see some faces. So I appreciate it. Okay, so back to Kimberly Olson's email. She says, "Hi Jared, I tried commenting on one of your videos, but I think it may have been deleted." Yeah, let me address that. A lot of people are confused because they'll leave emails or they'll leave comments and then they get deleted. I do not delete comments. YouTube will do that if it thinks that it's spam, or if you're like sometimes when you're leaving a link, although sometimes links work. So I don't understand how YouTube does it, but just everyone know, I do not delete comments. I will block people from the channel, like people that are rude, condescending, toxic. They can't share their opinion without being mean spirited. Because I cannot, and it's not as a punishment, I cannot expose myself to that. It's toxic on me. It affects my psyche, so I have to block you. But people that disagree, but they manage to say it in a nice way, then I just leave it. I leave all comments unless you're being toxic. But anyway, Kimberly Olson, in your case, YouTube would have done that. Okay, so she says, anyway, since you've mentioned the number 17 in several videos, I decided to look up if there's any significance to that number. According to multiple sources over the internet, the number 17 signifies overcoming the enemy and complete victory. It is also commonly believed among these sites that Christ was resurrected on Nisan 17, although I'm not sure where they get that from, biblically speaking. Anyway, something interesting to think about. Thanks, Kimberly Olson. All right, thanks, Kimberly, for the email. Now I'm gonna dispute what those sites are saying about Nisan 17 because I don't think that that's correct, or at least I don't think that that's the like the church's kind of prevailing view on that. So before I get into this website that she shared, just as a brief overview, 17. I already said President Nelson is the 17th president of the church. Okay, that's kind of where the ball got rolling. He's the 17th. A lot of important things seem to have happened in the year 2017. It corresponded with the Hebrew year 5777, which to them it was an important year. Probably the biggest thing that happened that year was the 2017 eclipse. And you should check out this video if you haven't already. I noticed that these two eclipses, they they go specifically, they had to take a specific path. in order to encompass a bunch of different church sites. You know, in your scriptures, when you go back to the church history maps and it shows you important locations in New York, in Ohio, and then important locations in Missouri. Well, if these eclipses had even been off by just a few miles, it would not have encompassed all the church sites. And when I say church sites, I'm talking about important sites where Christ has appeared, God the Father has appeared. I'm talking about Independence, Missouri, which we know is the future New Jerusalem, the center place. Adam-on-Diamond, Far West, even Fort Leavenworth. Fort Leavenworth it's in one of the church maps when you look at the maps in the back of your scriptures. So this happened in the year 2017. I'm not going to go over like a comprehensive list of everything that's happened, but let me just show you a few more things. And I would encourage you to watch this video. It's kind of incredible. I break down in this video, Latter-day Numerology, uh, the importance and significance of 7 and 10, along with other numbers, because if you add 7 and 10, you get 17. 7 and 10, just in a nutshell, they both, in their own way, represent completion and perfection. 7 in the creation sense, talking about the creation of the earth. 10 in the mathematical sense being the completion of a series. So you add those two together, completion and perfection. And that's how sorry, that's how I've viewed 17 up till this point. Not limiting it to that definition necessarily. It could mean other things too, but symbolically it seems to work pretty good. And so the implication is that if President Nelson is the 17th president of the church, and this is how the Lord is doing things with symbolism, with him being the 17th, which we know the Lord does. He likes to do things with numbers and series and stuff like that. Then the implication is President Nelson kind of the last president of the church before the second coming? Does his presidency represent completion of this dispensation, perfection? The work is done. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Can't say for sure. Now, President Nelson has done some very interesting things when it comes to the number 17. One of the most incredible things, I think, was this last conference. His main talk, the longest talk that he gave this last conference, and kind of like the focal point of the conference itself, was his talk called The Power of Spiritual Momentum. And guess what? If you can see on the screen here, how long, what was the duration of his talk? Oh, it was 17 minutes and 17 seconds. 17 minutes and 17 seconds. And then during his last talk, he completed 100 temple announcements. During his presidency, he has now announced 100 temples. I don't know if that was like some kind of goal. It kind of seems like it was, because like 100, that's like a very goal kind of number. It's like he becomes president and then he has a goal of announcing 100 temples. I don't know if that's the case for sure, but the fact of the matter is that this conference, he announced 17 temples to complete 100. Okay? So with him alone, there's a bunch of 17s going on with this last conference. People have pointed out, you go to any one of the general authorities' official social media accounts, with the exception of Instagram. On Instagram, they're following more, but on like Facebook and Twitter, for example, how many people are they following? They're following 17. They're following 17. Who are they following? Well, they're following the other members of the Quorum of the 12, First Presidency, the official church account, Come Unto Christ, and then the Tabernacle Choir to make 17. Okay. And then I just happened to notice as I was making this video that you come down here to his latest video. Guess how long it is? It's 2 minutes and 17 seconds. 17 seconds. 2 minutes and 17 seconds. That's how long this recent posting was from President Nelson. It was on May 16th. Well, and just another interesting thing right here, 34, 17 times 2. So he has 234,000 followers. 17 times 2 is 34. So anyway, that's more of a stretch, but that's still kind of interesting. So, all right. So you get the idea. You get the idea. There's been more. I don't have the entire list right here. You can go back and watch my older videos. But okay. So let's look at the website that Christy shared, or sorry, that Kimberly shared. Um, oh, before I do that, I want to point out, you guys, I have a couple upcoming interviews. The next one that I have coming up is with JoJo, the Joyous Genealogist. That's going to be, excuse me, that's going to be sometime this week. And then I'm looking to interview Megan next week. Now, I don't know if that's her last name. I kind of doubt it. I think she's doing it kind of tongue in cheek, Megan. But I don't know. I'll ask her in the interview. So make sure to check out their channels. JoJo, I've talked to her on the phone a number of times. She's very, very enthusiastic um, about family history work, and that's her calling right now in her ward. And then Megan, she's basically been focusing on like homeschooling and family life. And let's see, if I remember right, Megan is from Georgia, and then JoJo, she's from the uh, wait, am I messing this up? No, she's in the Kansas City area. How could I have forgotten after talking to her a bunch of times? No, she's in the Kansas City area. So we got Missouri and Georgia coming up, but you can subscribe to them now. If you go to, I'm on the like my channel's homepage. Just scroll down. They're under the featured channels, and then make sure to check out all these other channels too. Okay. I'm actually probably later today going to be doing an interview with Troy because he wanted to do one. And I typically don't do interviews, you guys. It kind of like stresses me out a little bit, but I wanted to do it for the sisters. I have a video explaining why I wanted to do it for the sisters that are wanting to start YouTube channels. And then Troy, I've been with him and he's been with me since the beginning of my channel. So um, anyway, sorry. Um, oh, and by the way, on Facebook, sorry, I don't mean to get too off topic, but I get a number of people sending me friend requests on my personal account, which I hope you can understand. I'm not going to accept those just because it's my personal account. And, there's 8,000 of you. I just crossed over 8,000 over the last couple days. And it's just I have to have privacy, so don't take it bad if I don't accept your friend request. I don't know the majority of you. Although I'm sure that you're fine people and you're great. Okay, so moving on. So we're on, this is a website called BibleStudy.org, which doesn't necessarily send up red flags, but it does a tiny, just not a red flag, but this is a site where you want to be cautious because this is probably set up by some other um, denomination or someone that's part of another denomination. So even though we have a lot in common with our other Christian brothers and sisters, remember that they do have fundamentally different beliefs uh, than we do. Okay, so their interpretations of things maybe and a lot of times are different than ours, but that doesn't mean that they can't make observations or have things that are useful that we do agree with. So that's just the disclaimer. Okay, so let's read it. The meaning of numbers. the number 17. The meaning of the number 17 in the Bible is that of, quote, overcoming the enemy and complete victory. And I don't know that I agree with that. Um, I've looked at like these different kind of like numerology, these different interpretations of numbers and assigning meaning to them. And a lot of these sites, they do tend to kind of like copy each other, sometimes word for word. Um, I'm not accusing BibleStudy.org of doing that. Maybe they're the first ones to have come up with this interpretation, but I'm just going to be careful with that one. I'm not sure that I entirely agree, but maybe, right? Perfection, completion. When you think about the process of mortality, then yeah, completion means overcoming the enemy. So maybe, yeah, maybe. God overcame the sins of rebellious humans when he began to flood the earth through rain on the 17th day of the second Hebrew month. And then Noah's Ark and its 8 passengers rested on the mountains of Ararat on the 17th of the 7th month. So that's interesting because in that one we can verify. Okay, in Genesis chapter 7, verse 11, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Now, I pulled up, you can find this any number of places. Uh, I know that this looks like Wikipedia. This is not Wikipedia. This is, it is a wiki. I don't know if you're familiar with wikis. Wikipedia is not the only one that does wikis, but a wiki is basically an open-ended kind of like thing like this where people can add on information and stuff like that. But this one's done through a university, okay, McGill. I think it's in Canada. But anyway, so they have listed here the Hebrew months. Okay, the first month of the year is Nisan. The second month of the year is Iyar. Now remember, their months are based on the moon and lunar cycles. Okay, and it just so happens that the way that they do things is that the year actually changes, the date changes um, in the 7th month during Tishri on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, even though it's the 7th month, so it's different than how we do things. But Noah, his story, the flood basically began in Iyar on the 17th day. So the 17th of Iyar. All right. And then in the following chapter, chapter 8, verse 4, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month. Okay. So we go back here. What's the seventh month? We were just looking at it. It's Tishri. Tishri. And BibleStudy.org mentions the fact that right in the middle of God's annual period, known as the Feast of Tabernacles. So if we look at our Hebrew calendar here, there's basically the 7 main feasts or festivals or whatever during the Hebrew year. You have 4 that are in the spring, right? You have Passover or the Seder meal, Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is this entire week. You have First Fruits, which is on the second day of Passover week. Um, and then starting on First Fruits, you count 50 days, and that brings you to Shavuot or Pentecost or the Feast of Weeks, or also known as the Harvest Feast. These are the first 4. These are the first 4 um, festivals or feasts. And then there's 3 fall feasts or festivals or observances. The first one is Rosh Hashanah, which is the first day of Tishri, which begins the new Jewish year. Okay. In between Rosh Hashanah, 10 days later, you have Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day. It's also known as the Day of Atonement. And there's 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are called the Days of Awe. These two holidays together comprise the high holy days. So Rosh Hashanah is also a really holy day, but Yom Kippur is the highest or the most holy day. And then following Yom Kippur, like basically a week later, you have the Feast of Tabernacles or Sukkot. And so you can see right here, you have the 17th of Tishri, and yeah, it's like right in the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles, roughly. Okay, so the 17th of Tishri, it's during the Feast of Tabernacles. That's when Noah's Ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. Very good. So this is interesting because you have to look at it this way. Well, you don't have to. You can do anything you want. But we're approaching the second coming, and the second coming corresponds with the flood. Okay, the flood was the baptism of the earth. We've done a video specifically about the earth and how the earth is alive and it has its own thing that it goes through. But the flood was the baptism. Okay, it cleansed the earth of the wicked, and there's going to be a corresponding event that we're about to witness probably pretty soon, which is the baptism of fire or the receiving of the Holy Ghost. And it does seem that there's going to be an actual literal fire of some sort, or heat, or the glory of the Lord. Um, we don't know the science behind that, but in some kind of way, there's going to be a burning event, right? And so that's just another thing. If President Nelson, with all these 17s, he himself being the 17th prophet, if it corresponds with Noah in his time, in this case, it could mean that we're almost there. That we're almost to the baptism of fire. Maybe. Maybe. I'm not saying that for sure. Just maybe. Okay, continuing on. Jesus Christ gained a complete victory over death in the grave when God resurrected him near sunset on Nisan 17. This one I will have to kind of. There's the daily siren. Sorry, everybody. It's noon at the time that I'm recording this. They do a test every day at noon. This one I might have to disagree with, and it's simply because I'm just going to show you two examples. I've come across numerous examples on the church website where it seems that the prevailing view of the church is that Christ was resurrected on the 16th of Nisan. So let's go back to our Hebrew calendar. Let's go up to the spring festivals of this year. This year, the Hebrew calendar happens to be in the configuration that it was at the time of Christ during the last week of his life. And we've looked that up on the church website. The church seems to accept the fact that Christ would have been crucified on Friday, and then in the grave all the day of Saturday, and then risen on the 17th. And you guys, I know that there's like the people out there that have like figured it all out and no, it actually happened on this day and whatever. But and I don't know, maybe you're right, but I'm just going to go with what the church says time and time again. It's come up a number of times in General Conference. I've already gone over that. I'm going with this model because it's what shows up in General Conference. So, okay, what the heck was I saying? Oh yeah, we were talking about being resurrected on the 17th. So we according to church material, church sources, General Conference, Christ was crucified on a Friday, and this is the same day. The 14th of Nisan is the day that you do the sacrifice of the Paschal lamb, and then later that night after sunset, which after sunset for the Jews it's a new day. So 14th, you sacrifice the Paschal lamb. And then sunset starts the new day, the 15th of Nisan, and that's when you have the Seder, or the Passover meal, where you eat the lamb that's been sacrificed. Okay? During this night, on the I guess the morning of the 15th of Nisan, this is when you have um oh wait, no, hold on. Am I getting it backwards? Whatever, I'm not going to go to. Okay, so just whatever. He was crucified on Friday. This day, the Sabbath, he was all day in the grave. Okay, and he was in the spirit world, obviously. And then on the 17th, that's the day that he, or sorry, on the 16th, I was looking at this 17. On the 16th of Nisan, that's when he was resurrected, the day of first fruits. Pesach too. This whole week is called Pesach. It's Passover week. Pesach too is first fruits. You see here how the Omer count starts. You do a 50-day Omer count that leads up to Pentecost. Well, so he was resurrected on this day. So I'm gonna have to depart. Here, like I said, here's a couple examples, just a couple articles. Resurrection on the 16th of Nisan. Here's another one. The Savior's resurrection occurred on Sunday after Passover, 16th of Nisan. Okay, and there's any number of examples of that you can find on the church website. So that's what I'm going with. Okay, let's go back here. I'm going to skip this paragraph. I don't really care too much about that. Daniel 7's. Okay, so the book of Daniel, chapter 7's beasts that have 7 heads and 10 horns, for a total number of 17. They represent world ruling powers from Daniel's time to the second coming of Jesus. And that's true. That is what they represent. Um, the devil's end time system in Revelation 13 will have 7 heads and 10 horns, which totals 17. Now, to be specific, okay, yes, in Daniel's, okay, this is like a really old depiction of Daniel's vision of the beast, which I like these kind of like medieval depictions. I don't know when this was made, but so you have Daniel. He views 4 beasts, right? He sees a lion with wings, which represents the Babylonian Empire, and then he sees a bear, which represents it represents the Persian and Median empires. Okay, because this is basically a timeline of superpowers that uh, basically persecute the Jews, but also in world history they're superpowers. So the Babylonians, and then after that the Persians and Medians, and then after that the Greek Empire or the Macedonian Empire, which was represented as a leopard with 4 heads. Okay, and then the last one in Daniel, it's not equated with a specific animal. It's just generically a beast, but it has 10 horns, and then there's a smaller horn that pops up that has eyes and a mouth to speak. It's the one that a lot of people say, "Oh, that's the Antichrist." That's like the singular Antichrist in the last days, which just go see my playlist called Antichrist. I do not believe that a singular one person Antichrist is an LDS concept. Antichrist is an LDS concept. There are many Antichrist, and we also have the Great and Abominable Church. And in the Institute manual, it suggests that the small horn is the Great and Abominable Church. But anyway, this is not a video about that. So if you're looking at just the regular horns, okay, the 10 main horns, then you have 10 right there, and then let's count the heads. 1 on the lion, 4 on the leopard, so you have 5, and then 6 for the bear, and then 7 for the generic beast. Okay, so 7 heads, 10 horns, 17. Okay, all right, I'll accept that. When you look at Revelation 13, I just want to show this. The book of Revelation corresponds pretty nicely with the book of Daniel. It's almost like the book of Daniel 2.0 or the sequel, where you have the same beasts show up, but they're not separate. You have one beast that comes out of the sea, and it has the different characteristics of these original four beasts, which makes sense because in Daniel's time, these beasts had not yet appeared, except for the lion, which was Babylon. But in the book of Revelation, he's talking about the last days. And by that time, this timeline had already come to pass. But the different aspects of these different empires came together through time. And what we have now is the remnants of these. Okay. Oh, and by the way, the fourth beast that represents the Roman Empire, and the 10 horns, uh, which correspond with Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the 10 toes of iron and clay. They represent the modern kingdoms of the world that are left over from the Roman Empire. So, what you have in Revelation is you have all those, the remnants of all those different empires and their characteristics into one beast. Okay, let's just read a little bit out of this. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, so there you have 17. 7 heads because it has the same heads as the original 4 beasts. And then the 10 horns, right? From the Roman Empire. And upon his horns, 10 crowns, and upon his heads, the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon. Now, the dragon is Satan. Okay? The dragon is Satan. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Right? Because that's how this world works. Secret combinations. Satan really does, I believe, have literal, actual power in this world because he makes deals with people and he can appear to people. And I think that there's dummies out there in power that have made deals with him, and therefore he has power in this world. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world astonished after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which is Satan, which gave power to the beast, which is the kingdoms of the world right now. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" And they were given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Now, this is interesting here because in Daniel, it was a horn. It was the 11th little horn that was given the ability to speak and had eyes and stuff. But here, okay, the sequel, you have all the 4 beasts together. You have the 10 horns, but you do not have an 11th horn. It's just simply this beast that's given a mouth to speak. Great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months, which is 3.5 years, which I've done a video. I've done a video, you guys, about 3.5. Let me pull this up. So many people get all confused about 3.5. Numerology. Sorry, I've got to pull this up. Okay. 3.5 in Jewish numerology. Okay, because you have the literal readers, the people that read everything literally in the scriptures. When prophets, a lot of times, especially in the book of Revelation, use numbers to communicate ideas and concepts. So watch this video called 3.5. It's very thorough. It uses many different sources. It talks about 3.5, but okay, so 40 and 2 months, so about 3.5 years, which I believe that this is symbolic because 3.5 is a symbol of it's symbolic of a time that Satan has power. Okay. Or in other words, a time of apostasy, a time of wickedness. Okay. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwelt in heaven. Okay, so that's just interesting that they don't have the 11th horn, but again, I really do think that that 11th horn and this mouth is basically the great and abominable church. Okay, let's go back to excuse me. Let's go back to BibleStudy.org. True Christians, however, will gain the ultimate victory over God's adversaries when he resurrects them back to life. One of the major themes of the Day of Atonement, commonly referred to as Yom Kippur, which occurs on the 7th Hebrew month on the 10th day, is the binding of Satan. Thus, 10 plus 7 equals the number 17, which testifies to Christ's perfect overcoming of Satan. And yeah, I could see that for sure. Yom Kippur representing the atonement. It's called the Day of Atonement. So yeah, Christ overcoming Satan. And again, if we go here, we go down to September of this year. Yom Kippur is going to be on the 5th of October. And here you can see it's on the 10th of Tishri. So the 7th month on the 10th day. Okay, the last one I want to go over, this is just more minor, but Rehoboam, son of Solomon, in the very first king of Judah, after the kingdom split in 930 BC, gosh dang it, reigned for 17 years. Sorry. Which I just thought that that was kind of interesting. I don't want to try and like really interpret that, but uh oh, I guess there's one more. Okay. Psalm 83 verses 6 to 11 list 17 enemies of Israel. Okay. 7 of these God destroyed in the past. The other 10 foes will soon try to destroy the Israelites and to cut them off from being a nation. So this is interesting because now this lists actual. Oh, they have it right here. The 7 enemies in the past are the Midianites, Sisera, Jabin, Oreb, Zeb, Zebah, and Zalmunna. The future confederation prophesied to be against God's chosen are Edom, Ishmaelites, which, if this is like an actual prophecy and it's literal, well, these are talking about. This seems to be talking about modern day Arabic nations, Islamic nations, because the Ishmaelites, and then Edom, Moab, these are all places in the Middle East. Um, Hagarites, Gebel, Ammon, Amalek, which they really have a thing against Amalek, by the way. The Jews do, but that's like a separate thing. Philistines, Tyre, and which is like Lebanon, and Assyria. This makes for 17 total foes vanquished by the Eternal. You know what? Why don't we just go to. I don't have that pulled up, do I? No. I want to pull that up. I just want to read the chapter heading Psalm 83. Okay, let's go to the church website. Scriptures. Old Testament. Psalms 83. Okay. God is asked to confound the enemies of his people. Jehovah is most high over all the earth. Okay. Let's take a look at the footnotes, just see if there's anything that stands out. Not really. not really. But that's an interesting concept, though. It's an Wait, let's see. Oh my God, make them like a wheel, and as the stubble before the wind. Now, stubble. We know that stubble is an image. It's imagery of the second coming and the cleansing of the earth. Yeah, the footnote goes to Psalm 1:4. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Um, so even though it doesn't say it in the chapter heading or even necessarily in the footnotes, you could potentially read this kind of as like a second coming psalm, because if you're thinking about the conquering of the enemies of the people of God at the end of the world, it kind of fits. It kind of fits, you know. And then 17 representing completion. We know that the Lord is going to say when he comes that it is done and all enemies have been put under his feet. So yeah, maybe. I think that's pretty interesting that you got a 17 right here talking about overcoming the enemies, these different kingdoms of the world. So maybe. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So thanks, Kimberly Olson. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's emails. Please just have patience with me. I'm one person, and there's a lot of emails with so much good information, and I don't want to just like skip through emails. Sometimes I can't do an email or a video on every email. Sometimes it's already something that we've covered pretty thoroughly, or it's like a video that you've sent me, and it takes a long time for me to kind of go through things, but I do the best that I can. Just believe me, I do what I can. Okay, so that's going to be it. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share this, and I'll talk to you guys later.